My dad was 15 years old, right when Pearl Harbor was bombed. My grandfather was over working on Wake Island as a civilian contractor for Morrison Knutson. The Japanese also bombed Wake Island for 14 days, and my grandfather was taken prisoner of war by the Japanese. And so my dad, when he was a senior in high school, he told his mom, "Mom, I'm going over and I'm going to find Dad. I'm going to rescue him from the prisoner of war camp and I'm going to bring him home."
I stayed in high school until my senior year, at which time I elected to leave school and join the Navy. I had proposed a plan, or conceived a plan, to help get Dad out of there.
He enlisted in the Navy because he knew that he wanted to get on a battleship that was cruising to Japan.
Went in for my induction physical and I flunked. I was too skinny and they rejected me, and well, I couldn't go home. I was whining, my eyes teared up, and I guess he couldn't stand to hear a guy quiver and whine. He signed it and I was in.
He wanted to be a quartermaster because he knew that the quartermasters had all the maps and that they would know where the ship was sailing.
And automatically, if you pick quartermaster, signalman becomes your second choice. And I thought, that's okay, I'm gonna be a quartermaster. Of course, that school was full and I was sent to signal school.
And initially he was very disappointed, but then he thought, well, okay, I can communicate.
I got assigned to a battleship, the Pennsylvania. Part of my plan was to get on a gun platform, battleship or cruiser, get to Japan. If I could see it, I could swim to it. Swim to Japan and tell the good Lord, well, I'm here now. Show me where I go next.
And they set sail towards Wake Island, a fleet of them. There were destroyers and other cruisers and different ships that were heading towards Japan. As they got close to Wake Island, they wanted some battle experience, and so they were going to battle Wake Island. The Japanese still had a stronghold on Wake Island.
In the afternoon of the shelling, we got in closer and they began to fire back.
There were 3 shots that went towards his battleship, and one shell landed on one side of his ship, one landed on the other.
We began looking around for the third one. Well, there was the third shell. It had gone through the fire control director and failed to explode. As I pondered what had happened, I knew 3 things. One, that God knew me, He loved me, and that I would not be killed in that war. A number of us walked back to see that hole in the fire control director again. And one of the guys says, "Boy, we sure were lucky." I said, "Sailor, your luck was being with me. The hand of the Lord caught that shell for the single purpose of keeping me alive." As we continued west, we heard on the news that the atomic bomb had apparently been dropped.
They still were continuing on to Japan, even after the bombs had been dropped. And a lone Japanese fighter dropped a bomb, and it ended up hitting the Pennsylvania.
He dropped a torpedo on us, hit the Pennsylvania. People were running everywhere. They didn't know who was dead, who was alive.
Now that their ship was crippled, they couldn't continue on to Japan. He requested transfer to any other ship in the fleet. Just let me on another ship heading to Japan. All those requests were denied.
The torpedo hit on the 12th. The war ended a couple of days later.
They sailed into Guam and were dry docked in Guam.
We were in the dry dock being repaired for several weeks. I took the time to call up other ships on the blinking light. And I asked them, "Have you been to Japan?" If they said yes, I asked, "Have there any POWs aboard?" And mostly it was no.
One ship came in, it was a hospital ship, and the answer came back yes. So he again signaled back, "Do you have a Lil Russell aboard your ship?" And they signaled back, "We'll get back to you."
I went up to the Combat Information Center, which was no longer in use, and I prayed that perhaps Dad could be aboard that ship. Eventually, the rescue lit up and said, yes, your father is aboard here now.
You know, he just found his dad. So he couldn't even answer because he was in shock. So another one of his signalman buddies jumped on the light and said, okay, great. Well, my dad found the officer of his ship and told the story. My dad's on the hospital ship. Do I have permission to climb aboard?
Dad stepped forward and says, Pete. And we fell in each other's arms and wept.
And here he was, hugging his dad. Heavenly Father helped him accomplish that goal.